Okay, some more solving polynomial equations by factoring, and we've got 5s minus 1 equals 6s squared. So first of all, we'll set this equal to 0, so I can put everything on the right then flip it, I guess. So what I would do is I could say 0 equals, and it would be 6s squared minus 5s. I've got 5 and s's, those aren't very good. That's just asking for trouble there. And then plus 1. And then I can use a symmetrical property of equality that says I could just reverse these, and I can just say 6s squared minus 5s plus 1 equals 0. And when you got 5's and s's, you got to be really careful to make sure you got a straight line there so you don't confuse these. Okay, then again, it looks like we have another general trinomial. So we get more practice with that general trinomial method. So 6 times 1 equals 6. So I need two numbers that multiply to give 6, and they have to add up to be negative 5. Well, if they have to multiply to give a positive, the signs should be the same, but if they have to add it to be a negative, they must both be negative. A negative times a negative is positive, but a negative added to a negative is a negative. So what are those numbers going to be, do we think? Well, looks like 3 and 2. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6, but negative 3 plus negative 2 is negative 5. So I'm going to rewrite the middle term. So I've got 6s squared. And instead of writing negative 5, I'm going to write negative 3s and negative 2s. That's nice because now I don't have to have the 5 anymore. And then we'll just do the 4-term grouping, and we'll group that right down the middle there. Or factor right down the middle, excuse me. And out of these two terms, I can take out a (3s). Oops, wrong. And what's left in the first term? 2s, and then minus 1. And then here I'll always take out the leading sign, so I'm going to take out a negative. And there's nothing else to take out, so I'll just take out a negative 1, and watch how this works out. If I take out a negative 1, that's going to be 2s. And if I take a negative from a positive, I have a negative left, so I've got negative 1. And that equals 0. This will always work out if you can find the numbers that satisfy these conditions. That's just the first term times the third term. 6 times 1. Okay? And then we can now factor out the 2s minus 1. And what's left is 3s minus 1. That equals 0. So I know that either 2s minus 1 equals 0 or 3s minus 1 equals 0. And here I can add 1 to both sides, so 2s equals 1, so s equals 1/2, or 3s equals 1, and s equals 1/3. So my solution set would be just that, the set containing 1/3 and 1/2. So there you go. That's a good one to look at. That's number 18. And then number 20. It's another really good problem. And this is a u plus 3 times u minus 3 equals 8u. So it has to be equal to 0. So what we're going to have to do is we have to multiply this out. So we can use the FOIL method, and we've got u squared. Okay, that's first terms. And the outside would be negative 3u, inside plus 3u. And last terms would be negative 9. And that equals 8u. But we notice that This is just the product of the sum and difference, so this is going to end up being, because the three u's will cancel, just u squared minus 9, and that equals 8u. And I want to set it equal to 0 and then factor, so I'll subtract 8u from both sides. So I've got u squared minus 8u minus 9 equals 0. So first of all, we have to set it up like that. So again, multiply this out, simplify it, and then set it equal to 0. And now what do we got? We got a nice simple trinomial in u. So I analyze my signs. This tells me these signs will be different and the sign of larger will be negative. So negative, positive. I need two numbers that multiply to give 9 and differ by 8. Well, that's just going to be 9 and 1. And check it. Negative 9u plus 1u is negative 8u. Negative 9 times positive 1 is negative 9, and u times u is u squared, so it checks out. So we know that either u minus 9 will equal 0, or u plus 1 will equal 0. So u will either equal 9, or u will equal negative 1. So your solution set is just that, negative 1, 9. Okay, and then number 22 looks pretty good. X equals x minus 6 squared. So the first thing we need to do is we need to multiply this out. Now this is a binomial square, so we know that that's going to be x. And if you have trouble, you can always just write x minus 6 times x minus 6 and FOIL it out, because that's what that means. And if you do that, you're going to get x squared minus 6x minus 6x plus 36. And when we add these, we get x squared minus 12x plus 36. Or if you just remember your form, you know it's going to be the first squared, this sign minus, and then twice the product. 6x times 2 is 12x. And this is always positive, plus 36. So you can write it like that. Now we want to set it equal to 0, so I'll subtract x from both sides. So I've got 0 equals x squared minus 13x plus 36. And then I'll just move this on the left side because we're used to seeing that. And that's what we call the symmetrical property of equality. A equals b is the same thing as b equals a, so we can move this on the left. We get x squared minus 13x plus 36 equals 0. And now we're going to factor this, and this is just another simple trinomial. It's not a trinomial square because we don't have the price of product in the middle, but it's just a simple trinomial. So I've got x, and I'll analyze my signs. And this tells me that these two signs have got to be the same because they multiply to give a positive. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. A positive times a positive is a negative. So the signs must be the same, and if they're the same, this tells me what they are. So they're both negative. They have to multiply to give 36, and their sum has got to be 13. And if you have any trouble, you can just say, well, 1 times 36 multiplies to give 36, but their sum is 37. 2 times 18, no. 3 times 12, no. 4 times 9, yes, their sum is 36. So it's going to be 4 and 9. And you can double check that. Negative 4x and negative 9x is negative 13x, but negative 4 times negative 9 is positive 36. And then we know that if that's the case, we know that either x minus 4 equals 0 or x minus 9 equals 0. So if I add 4 to both sides, x equals 4 or x equals 9. And your solution set is just 4, 9. There you go. So those are all pretty good problems. I hope those help.